Projekt Guru.
Всем привет! С вами Zak Novak на радиостанции Novorossia Rocks. Welcome to Novorossia Rocks radio station. This is Zak Novak, your American in downtown Donetsk. The program is called Projekt Guru, and Guru is in the house as always. My engineer Andrei Dayoff. Let's get right to it. Russian prisoners being tortured in Ukraine. Kiev Junta will be held responsible. Moscow has information that Russian prisoners in Ukraine have been subject to torture. Russian Foreign Ministry Human Rights Ombudsman Konstantin Dolgov said Wednesday, "We have evidence. In any case, there is information that torture is being used on our citizens in Ukraine prisons," Dolgov told reporters during a press conference at Rossiya Sigonya International Information Agency. According to him, this information should be investigated carefully and seriously. If these facts are confirmed, someone in the Ukrainian authorities, the Ukrainian junta, will be held responsible. Military and technical cooperation, Russia and Serbia, a strategic partnership. The two officials met in Moscow on Wednesday. Strategic partnership has been established between our countries, and it was underscored during a recent visit of President Tomislav Nikolic to our country. Many agreements were reached during the visit, and I hope they will all be implemented, according to the defense minister of Russia. Shoigu also expressed hope that his meeting with Georgievich would help to further strengthen bilateral relations and military and technical cooperation between Russia and Serbia. Georgievich, who was in the Russian capital for the 5th Moscow Conference on International Security, also said that the successful long-term partnership between the two countries should continue. Serbia greatly values the fact that Russia supports Serbia and the Serbian people. Georgievich on Tuesday met with Secretary General of the Collective Security Treaty Organization, Nikolai Borzuja, to discuss participation in peacekeeping operations and the fight against terrorism and drug trade. During the meeting, the Serbian official reiterated his country's commitment to military neutrality. Female suicide bomber killing herself and wounding at least 13 in Bursa, Turkey. The latest in an ever-growing number of attacks around tourist sites in Turkey. A female suicide bomber today detonated in the northwestern city of Bursa, killing herself and wounding at least 13 people. None of the wounded were critically injured in the blast. The attack targeted a part of the city popular with tourists near a marketplace and an Ottoman-era mosque. There has been no public claim of responsibility, and officials say they are still uncertain of the woman's identity or any connection she may have to terror groups. There is no shortage of suspects in Turkey, however, with the recent flurry of strikes, including attacks by multiple Kurdish separatist groups, including the PKK, as well as, according to Turkey, ISIS and a banned Marxist-Leninist organization. ISIS and the Marxist-Leninist group, the Marxist Revolutionary People's Liberation Party Front, are the two groups that most commonly target tourist areas. However, with the Kurdish bombings tending to go after police and other security forces. Growing tension in the city of Odessa as Nazi elements move in. The spokesman for the Russian Foreign Ministry, Maria Zakharova, warned today of the growing tension in the Ukrainian city of Odessa 2 years after the tragedy in the House of Unions, without the authorities having carried out a thorough investigation in this regard. The news of volunteers of the radical Nazi battalions of Aidar, Azov, and the nationalist political organization Right Sector being moved to the heroic city of Odessa are worrying, said Zakharova during a traditional weekly press conference. She deplored that 2 years after the tragedy in Odessa, in which hundreds of activists and civilians were killed, the Ukrainian junta authorities have not wanted to carry out an objective investigation of the events and punish those responsible. Zakharova estimated that Kiev should avoid a further escalation of clashes between domestic sectors and not hide the truth of what happened on May 2nd, 2014 in the Kulikovoye Poliya Square and the arson in the House of Unions, where activists fled the persecution of armed Nazi radical elements. Kiev officially estimated that nearly 50 people were killed, but non-governmental organizations and human rights defenders denounced more than 500 dead and missing. The spokeswoman on Ministry of Foreign Affairs criticized, on the other hand, recent pronouncements by the Ukrainian Nazi President Petro Poroshenko about the relevance of deploying an international police police mission armed to the teeth with heavy weapons, including in the conflict zone in the Donbass region. She cataloged the idea as detached from reality, because there is no history of any UN peacekeeping missions. It is an initiative that contradicts the civil mission of the Organization for Security and Cooperation of Europe, whose members control the regime of ceasefire in the area, and this is responsibility and work that the Ukrainian authorities should respect, said the spokeswoman of the Foreign Ministry. Hey, listen up, folks. This is just total madness when I'm reading this and seeing the news the last 24 hours, what's going on here in Donetsk People's Republic, and this by the Nazi Poroshenko, the Ukraine Junta, backed by the Obama regime and many countries of the EU who are backing this sickness, the sickness of the Ukrainian junta government. Listen to this. After the massacre at Elenovka checkpoint, Nazi Kiev Junta continue bombing civilian areas. After the bloody massacre, war crimes that was committed yesterday at Elenovka checkpoint, the Kiev Nazi junta continued to bomb civilian areas of the Donetsk Republic. According to a source in law enforcement agencies of the Donetsk People's Republic, pro-Nazi Kiev forces fired 20 shells. That's 20 shells on the western outskirts of Donetsk and the town of Dokuchayevsk last night. From 11 p.m. to 4:30 a.m., Nazi Ukrainian forces shelled the settlements of Novorossia and Yasnoye and the town of Dokuchayevsk. They fired 20 shells of 82 caliber at the settlements. According to the source, Nazi Kiev forces opened fire from occupied positions. Listen to that. That's occupied positions in Marinka, Berezovoye, and Novotroitskoye. They also used grenade launchers and small arms. Confirmation on the massacre at Elenovka checkpoint. This is confirmation. The OSCE Special Monitoring Mission on Wednesday confirmed 6 civilians were killed in a shelling of the Elenovka border checkpoint of the Donetsk People's Republic. According to preliminary assessment, 3 vehicles were damaged, 6 civilians killed, and an unconfirmed number of people were injured. Let's head over to Armenia. Turkish-backed fascist Azerbaijani forces attack and bomb Nagorno-Karabakh and Armenia. Armenia's defense ministry says Azerbaijan forces fired more than 240 shells at the Nagorno-Karabakh positions and also shelled the state border between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Overnight to April 28, Azerbaijani armed forces continued the intensive shelling of positions of the Nagorno-Karabakh forces. That's according to the ministry there. The shells were fired from tanks, mortars, guns of different caliber, multiple artillery rocket systems, and Grad multiple rocket launchers. According to the ministry, the Azerbaijani side also shelled the state border between Armenia and Azerbaijan 23 times from small and sniper weapons as well. The situation along the contact line of conflicting sides in Nagorno-Karabakh, a disputed territory between Armenia and Azerbaijan, deteriorated dramatically overnight. April 2nd, when fierce clashes began, the parties to the conflict accused each other of violating the truce. At a meeting of chiefs of General Staff Armenia, Azerbaijan in Moscow, an agreement was reached on a ceasefire from noon local time on April 5th. But since then, the sides have reported ceasefire violations along the contact line. Russia has circulated a war crimes document at UN, the tragic event in Odessa, 48 burned alive. Russia has circulated at the UN Security Council a draft statement supporting implementation of the Minsk peace agreements and calling to investigate the tragic events in Odessa on 2nd May 2014. Russia's permanent representative at the UN, Vitaly Churkin, told reporters on Wednesday. Churkin expects that the document will be adopted after the Security Council's Thursday session convened at Ukraine's request. We have circulated a very simple draft statement which underlines the need to implement the Minsk peace agreements and also contains an appeal to investigate tragic events in Odessa on 2nd May 2014 when 48 people were burned alive. We wonder what the reaction of the Security Council's members will be. Answering a question when the Security Council expected to adopt the statement, the Russian envoy said tomorrow after the session. The city of Odessa saw riots on 2nd of May 2014 during which right sector Nazi militants, the movement recognized as an extremist organization in Russia, and so-called Maidan self-defense militants from Kiev set ablaze the trade union's house where their opponents had taken shelter and a tent camp where activists were collecting signatures for a referendum on Ukraine's federal normalization and for the status of a state language for Russian, the attackers did not let anyone leave the burning trade union house building. Around 48 people were reported dead, 247 injured in the clashes and in the fire in the trade union house. Earlier on Wednesday, Ukraine President Nazi coup leader Poroshenko said that he had instructed the country's diplomatic mission at the UN to file a request for holding an open session at the Security Council in the wake of worsening situation in Donbass and Russia's failure to implement the Minsk Accords. This according to Poroshenko, of course. The session is scheduled to start at 7 p.m. tonight, April 28th. That's in New York, UN, United Nations. Hey everyone, that ends our program. It's been really a horrific week. As I stress always, be on alert, stay safe, have a great weekend, and see you all on Monday. Bye-bye, folks.